All right, guys, we're back in the shop, and we've got some special people here with some special things that you're about to see to happen to a special track that we've been working on. And I've hinted in the past that we had some plans for this girl. Well, or boy, we'll talk about that later. Big Bud. Bud's a guy's name. Anyways, so we are going to officially upgrade this tractor's auto guidance system, as well as install an ISOBus ready Pro 700. First up, we have Steven here. Steven is with Torgerson's.
Hi.
And he's been tasked to come and do this project. So as far as I know, you haven't done this to a Big Bud before?
Never.
Okay, so it should be fun.
And
you're certified. That's all that matters.
Yeah, certified crazy.
Certified crazy. Then we've got Dustin. Dustin's with Torgerson's as well. And Dustin, you specialize in navigation equipment. And
Yeah, we have the same position.
oh, your same position. Oh, nice. Good. We've got jobs for you guys. And then we have this guy. He's just kind of hanging there in the distance. I don't know what he's doing.
I'm certified in dropping things. I'm good at that.
Yeah.
I'm really good at that.
Anyways, well, we're excited to have you guys on. This is going to be fun. So we're going to spend the next few days getting this tractor up to the 21st century because it's a little behind. Not that the Easy Steer is terrible, but it's a little behind. So let's go. So we opened up the hood, tipped the cad back. They've been climbing around this thing, kind of getting an idea because they have never seen this tractor in person yet. It's all just been literally phone calls figuring this all out. So we believe like 90% of the stuff we need to make this happen, but we need a new steering sector because that one is open center. And originally in the thought process, we're like, well, maybe we'll put a valve in and convert it over and keep it. But we decided there's another steering sector on the farm. It's not being used right now and we could go rob it. So we're gonna do that. Versatile. It's actually a load sensing steering sector. So we'll go grab that, bring that over here. We'll figure out how to mount it on this tractor because it'd be a good donor, right? A lot to do. It's gonna be awesome. Dusty and Steven are working great. So we'll just keep going. Life of a four-wheeler does everything. Why did I get to drive? Oh, the mud and the feet. Okay, we're better. This is safe. Very safe. I could have just walked. No, it's actually not that bad. All right, we're at the Versatile. And we got a bunch of tools. And we're gonna pull that steering sector off. Ugh. A few minutes later, a few trips back to the shop and a different vehicle. We got the steering sector off. So let's go back to the shop, meet up with Steven and Dusty and let Legarms do his thing to try to get the steering sector to work because I'm glad he's doing it. So Legarms is up there pulling off the old steering pump on the tractor. It is closed center, but it's not load sensing. He went ahead and decided it was time to put a new steering pump on it, even though we originally were gonna keep the first one, but with all this new setup we're putting on it, easier to put a load sensing pump on for the steering. And this way, this pump and the other pump, which is identical to this, the main implement pump, can work together down the road, hopefully to create the hydraulic flow that we need, the volume. So that's kind of the big thing these days is gallons per minute flow. And right now this tractor only has about 40 some, but with that pump, it'll up it a bunch more, so that will be more future proof. So he's up there doing that. And the other guys are kind of getting things figured out. And it won't be long here, we'll start doing a lot. But he's been working really hard. He hasn't even eaten lunch yet, so I should probably kick him out of there and try to do what he's doing. I can, guys.
This is a load sensing steering sector. This is off the Versatile. This one here is off the Big Bud. This one here is pressure comp. And reason why I wanted to change this is imagine a faucet. If you turn the faucet on all the way and you can't change the flow and you try to take your hand and cap it, that's pretty hard to do, isn't it? What if you could vary the flow on your faucet depending on how much water you want to use? That's technically what this is right here. It's got a load sensing line. So as the hydraulics needs to turn or move the tractor back and forth, this signal line coming off this one will tell the pump, hey, I need a little bit more hydraulics. So then the pump will ramp up and it will supply more hydraulics, or it'll say, no, I don't need as much hydraulics, and then it'll ramp back down. This one here is gonna create less heat, it's gonna use less horsepower, and it's gonna be more efficient to have a load sensing. Pressure comp, when the pump is set at a certain pressure, let's just say 2000 PSI or 2500 PSI, whatever you set it at. When the tractor starts, it's going to boost that pump up to 2,500 PSI, whatever you set it at, and it's going to stay that way, which means it's going to have to be generating the more horsepower to run that pump. It works great on a lot of applications, and it's been working great on this tractor for a long time. But down the road, if I ever wanted to tap into the second pump that I put on and run another fan, I'd like to do load sensing, which means I need to have one of these. So I'm thinking about the future, gonna put this on, and yeah, it should work out pretty well. Keyword should. But we got some smart people here so they can figure out for us if we don't get it right. In fact, I'm just following their lead because they're smart. Oh, it's so nice. Now we're gonna need to have a bracket to hold the 700 monitor, and then we'll have another monitor, which is actually an iPad for the Trimble system, Intelligent Ag. And so I'm gonna go ahead and take this 1/2-inch rebar, or not rebar, black pipe, bend it into the, I think at 90 degrees is what I'm gonna do, and then we'll cut it up, make a couple brackets, bolt it in the cab, and that should be good for them. Let's see how it works. So they have the valve body installed in the cab right here. I went ahead and got the steering sector on, and we just have to make some hoses to put it all together. They're getting all the wiring all tied up where they want to put it, diagnosing, figuring out whatever they're doing. I don't know, they're smart people. Smarter than me for sure, but anyways, I'll stay out of their way. That's what I'm gonna try to do. With the steering column removed, it's actually quite easier for them to work inside here. They're gonna move the wire around where they need to. They've got a little brain box and a few other things. And the bracket that I have, that I'm gonna start making, is gonna have the 700 Pro monitor sitting over in the corner. So I'll have to get some angles here, figure out what kind of angles I want and the dimensions, cut, chop, weld, and then we'll paint it, install it, and they can hang the 700 Pro monitor. We took a trip to town, got some fittings out here so we can put all the fittings on everything up there. And then we went ahead and grabbed a whole entire roll of 5/8 hydraulic hose. We will measure on how much we want from that and figure it out, take the rest of the roll back that we don't need, and then they'll credit us. And then of course got a little 1/4 inch line. So we will crimp all of the hydraulic lines we want and hopefully have enough fittings to make everything happen. Yeah, let's see what happens with that. Taking all the fittings, putting them on to the places that we want to make sure that they're correct and that we can use them. And then once we get that all figured out, we will figure out what kind of length of hoses we need to cut and start cutting, crimping, and installing. But now it's like the puzzle game. If you like Legos, this is kind of what we're doing. They just go together. You don't have to modify them, which is nice. He wants to make sure they fit. You just have to, you know, pound them on and like glue them on like a hot glue gun. They'll fit. Day number 3, we're still working on the 600/50 Big Bud tractor. It's taking a little longer, but that is actually normal. The past 2 days, we've been just trying to figure out where to route everything, trying to find a couple different parts, fittings, and all that kind of thing. Hopefully we can start messing with the settings on the pressure and maybe play with some of the monitor settings and get things figured out. There's still a lot of things to do. This tractor is not designed for this type of hydraulics, but we are making it happen. Thanks to Case IH and Torgerson's, they got a pretty neat crew going on, and the parts that they supplied, it's gonna be a fun tractor. I'm excited to play with this thing this year. There's a lot going on right here. It looks like a chaotic mess, but there's a method to the madness. There always seems to be a method to the madness, but we have to have a hydraulic pump that runs lines over to the steering sector. Well, actually this is a steering sector or hand pump, I've been told too. There's different terms for everything. Still mean the same thing, but different terms. This valve body right here has a couple solenoids on it, and this is what tells the GPS, or the GPS tells this thing to steer the tractor back and forth. When you turn the steering, it'll override this, kick off the GPS, and then you can steer it manually. But when you want to kick the GPS on, you just push a button, however the settings are set. This will take over and it'll take the tractor and it'll do whatever you want it to do. This is the heart of the hydraulics, but it's not the brain. The brain is inside the cab. There's actually a couple brains. There's a monitor, and then there's a couple modules or brain boxes, or I don't know, there's just terms for these things. It's above my pay grade. I don't really know these things very well. There's gonna be a little bit of an upgrade to this cart, which is gonna be phenomenal for us because we've had a lot of problems with Flexicoil air carts. And this guy over here, which is like a wealth of knowledge, and I'm learning tons of stuff from this guy, he might enlighten you a little bit more of what's going on. So what are you doing there?
So we're taking the existing controllers off this cart. Right now there's 2 controllers on it to run the 3 tanks. We're going to be replacing it with one controller that can actually run all 3 tanks over ISOBus instead of over the old proprietary Flex Control software. What that's going to do is that's going to allow us to interface this cart with the Pro 700 or a Pro 600 so that we can utilize one screen to run everything. The guidance, air cart, blockage monitoring if we wanted to. These guys have Intelligent Ag on the hoe drills so that they can actually use an iPad. It gives a little bit prettier look and a little bit more efficient interface to the blockage system. So right now I'm going to be taking these off, take off all the harness that goes to all the sensors on the cart and that runs the meter drives, and start replacing the harness with a new one and put the new controller on. Most of the time these wonderful controllers, I don't know if you can see that, this one here already snapped off. The bolts get a bit corroded from fertilizer and years of being exposed to the elements. So that's the hardest part, is usually taking all of this off, and getting everything mounted is pretty smooth. But yeah, getting the bolts out and making sure that we don't break any of them is a big thing.
You know what, from now on I should just have him talk, because he makes it so smooth, like warm butter, you know? It's just great. But that is just gonna be awesome. I'm gonna crawl down there with him and we'll just kind of pull everything off. And the upgrades, you can look at Case IH or go to your local dealer and ask them to say how much it is, and go from there. And that's something that is gonna be so nice to get away from that old monitor and have everything integrated onto the Pro 700 so you can see everything that's going on from the cart, the GPS, and it's all on one screen. And then of course, like I said, the blockage monitor, which is just an iPad, which will be sitting there by itself. It's fine. But yeah, it's gonna be awesome. We're looking forward to getting rid of that old harness and new technology, which is gonna make our lives a lot simpler and easier and less stressful. That's the key. Let's get to work. One thing too, if you didn't know, Flex Coil is actually bought out by Case IH. So Case IH actually owns Flex Coil, and Flex Coil actually bought out Frigstad. So Frigstad's plow, which was back in the day, they used to make the big, huge 80-foot, 45-foot, and great design. Big Bud ran those alongside, and then after a while, Frigstad went down. Flex Coil bought them out, started building Flex Coil, and then Case IH bought Flex Coil, and New Holland has a little deal in that too. So, a little history, but I'm probably saying it incorrect, and somebody will correct me out there, but that's fine. I was wrong. We grabbed the 4350 instead of the 3850. That's okay. We'll do the same thing to the other car too.
To get this cart in the shop, no safety handrails up there, we're gonna clip the shop door coming in. There was nothing we could do, and so we're like, well, we gotta take off all that staircase getting up there. We already took the top railing off. We're like, this auger's gonna hit. What happens if we just drop the tongue down on the ground and use the bucket to push it in? That might drop this down enough. And it did. It was like this close, but it's in the shop. And now we can work on this thing because it is literally 7 degrees outside and the wind's blowing 30. And this is now in a nice warm shop, and we can work on this because the old harness on this thing is not ISOBus. The system we're putting in the tractor is ISOBus. So have to convert the air cart over as well so it can communicate to the Pro 700 and all the electronics on the tractor side of things. Well, we have another air drill, 3850, and that is gonna be connected to the 525, KTA 525 Big Bud. Problem is, that still has the old Flex Coil monitor in it. It's terrible. It's so bad. Might have been good in its day, but it's bad now. And we've had issues on and off, and a lot of it could be with that whole harness and the controller and everything. But guess what we have here? This is an IntelliView, which actually is a Pro 600. I know, some people don't like the Pro 600s, but this is just sitting on our shelf. Came out of that New Holland S1070 sprayer that we turned into Big Brute. Remember that thing? We don't need this. And we were talking to the guys and they said, we can program that for you and put that in your other bud. And if you get a harness for your other cart, you can make that ISOBus ready and then use this Pro 600 for your new display. So we're gonna do that. Dustin here's been working hard on all this, and he is gonna hook his laptop up to it, and you're gonna reprogram it. Yep. It actually boots up pretty fast. So that was just in our sprayer. It used to run in our 8940 Case Magnum. So he is going to put a new, basically a new firmware on it, right?
Yeah.
And you're updated, so it'll be technically a Pro 600 now?
It'll still be the same, but it's just a different name for a Pro 600.
Oh, okay.
They have the same exact software, rebranding.
And we'll be able to control all of our air drill cart meter and everything through this.
Anything with a virtual terminal or anything ran on ISOBus and you have the connection, you can run on this.
Awesome. My phone is going crazy. It's right here. I'm gonna turn that thing off. So when you say captured, that just basically means linked to it?
It just means it's in program.
Got it. So don't unplug anything right now.
It's a hard reboot if we unplug anything, but we'll have to just do the process of capturing.
What will it do? Just be the run screen when it starts up?
Yeah, and a couple of the other screens might show some brand-specific things. Whenever we actually set up your other air card, we can tell it whether it's Coil, New Holland, or Case IH as well.
I suppose. Better just do this one.
That's the one I choose to.
Do you? Is there a reason for that?
Brand preference.
Oh, okay. Just checking. All right, we'll go with that one. So is that good?
Yeah.
Nice. Steven thinks he's got it all set, so we're gonna start it, but he told us the first time you install an integrated guidance system, you don't want to touch the steering wheel and you don't want to be near the tractor because air in the system and then maybe possibly hoses being hooked up wrong, it can cause it to do weird things.
Yeah, I don't want anybody getting hurt, so everyone's away from all the crush zones on the tractor, hands off the steering wheel if it turns, because there's air in the system. As the air gets purged out, that steering wheel may turn on its own, and with a force of up to 5,000 pounds or wherever that hydraulic pump is set at.
Are you saying leg arms can't hold that steering wheel, even at 5,000?
You cannot. You cannot.
Okay, so we're gonna start it, see what happens. Got one leak. Okay, he's gonna check it.
Oh, we didn't tighten our load sense lines.
Does it have a mark on it?
No.
Jamie Weld?
I did the one underneath.
Oh yeah,
She seems to be a bit loose.
just a little bit.
Yeah, you know.
It's just a drip.
If that's the most of our worries at this point, we've done a really good job.
It turned the right way when he turned it, didn't do anything crazy. Leg arms aren't broke. One of the reasons why we had to change the steering sectors so we can have that load sensing line on there. Steven has just applied the correct amount of foot-pounds to that.
I don't know. I didn't go click yet.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, it didn't click?
Click.
Is that your elbows when they pop or shoulders?
Yes, that is all of the above.
Crack! Oh, there we go.
I don't sound like Rice Krispies.
Such a hard job to do right now. I mean, I'm really just like pushing it as hard as I can. So we're in the bud. We're taking it out for the first test drive to make sure everything's working pretty good. He's gonna mess with the GPS, and so far no leaks, and it's running, so that's good.
You mind if I drive out there?
Yeah, drive where you need to.
So we do need the all makes unlock. So the all makes unlock allows us to drive this without the CAN interface that is normally present on a Case IH vehicle. What that does is it allows us to basically run a autopilot platform kit as if it was our own. So I should be getting that passcode here shortly, but everything else looks like it's working.
Sweet.
So Dustin, what are we doing right now?
Right now they're just testing all the lines, heating up the system, making sure the hydraulics are all warm, letting the system understand it.
Steven's gonna go in, they're gonna tie some gauges in and then the system and check some hydraulic pressures. Probably have to tune up the pressure on the pump, so that way it has sufficient pressure to turn the tractor. But on the bright side, everything seems to be working. He had to do a bunch of setting adjustments in the monitor in the 700. That's being done. So they're gonna wrap this up, find out what's going on, and we'll take it out for another test drive here in a bit. So what he's doing right now is he's checking the pressures of the standby pressure of the hydraulic pump, as well as the engaged pressure, what do you call it? So you gotta rev it up to do that. Since we have the cart inside, I went ahead and took a look at the belts on the fans. This dual fan setup on these, and it's this kind of older design where they put the fans on the same shaft. Good idea for compact, bad idea for changing belts, because the belts are in the center between the two fans, and to change the belts that power the fan off the drive motor, you have to take the fan apart. It's not terrible, it just requires a puller and some hammers and punches and a bunch of different odds and ends, but it just takes some time out in the field. It'd be a bummer to do this. That's why we're doing this now. I'm gonna change it out, put the new belts in, tighten these up, and then hopefully this will run for quite a few more years. Those belts last a long time. They do. They're a pain to get out.
We're ready to take this big bud, go hook up to the cart. We just pulled the cart outside, and then we get to see exactly if the 700 Pro will talk to the cart harness, which it should, but he's gonna go through and check everything, make sure everything works, run the hydraulics, and yes. Guys, this is just awesome. Isn't it just a sweet tractor? Go ahead and fire it up. Oh yeah, there you go. Do you guys smell that? Oh, it smells so good. The guys are calibrating the air cart right now. We'll have that hopefully running soon. I'm gonna take off in the truck. I'll be back. Can't wait for that thing to work. It's gonna be awesome.
We're going to see if AccuTurn works. Also, I'm hijacking your camera. What we have done is converted the hydraulic steering system from an open center to a closed center load sensing so that it's compatible with the auto guidance valve without needing load check valves or anything else to isolate the hand pump. We've installed the Pro 700 with ISO capability to run their air cart. We've installed the 372 that is running Trimble's Range Point RTX for corrections. I've loaded the software on the display, set up all of our wiring so it looks pretty. This is probably the only big bud in the world that actually has a diagnostic port with a full CAN system added to it. The only wiring that we really have exposed is that. Underneath this buddy seat that they built is our nav controller. The rest of it's wiring. Underneath the front of the hood up there is our guidance valve that we very carefully tucked in place because I've got to tell you, that was a tight fit. But it should all fit in there nice. We're going to see now if we can actually use AccuTurn. So, turn left or turn right? I'm more of a right guy. So it's going to swing left, make kind of a light bulb turn. It didn't like something. So inside this, there's 3 gyroscopes and 3 accelerometers that recalculate its position on the surface of the Earth 100 times a second. And 100 times a second, it sends a PWM variable signal to the hydraulic guidance valve that's underneath the new hand pump that we installed. Overall, I'm very pleased after doing a lot of tuning on this vehicle profile to make it handle the way that I needed it to and the way that these guys are going to really enjoy. Our cross-track error is low, it comes online. The guidance valve can actually turn this tractor left and right faster than we can with the steering wheel, just because the amount of flow that we can get through our guidance valve. It's a 60 liter per minute guidance valve, so quite large. We actually modified all of the hoses and all of the fittings using some other fittings that we took off an old valve bank that they had, so we could make everything fit and look as close to factory as we could.
Tell us a little bit about what you've done.
All right, so I showed up here. Case IH sent us the platform kits and all the wiring that we needed. We've changed some stuff out on the platform kit that we installed on this machine. So kind of what we started with is a big bud that had an open center steering system on it. And we changed out the hydraulic pump and added a load sense system, if you will. CCLS is what we call it in the industry. So we added that to it. We changed out the hand pump for one that these guys took off of a Versatile because it had the load sense line that we needed. We changed some fittings out on the hydraulic guidance block so that we could get more flow because the steering cylinders on this thing are pretty massive. So we could get the kind of flow that we needed so our corrections would be right. We added a 372 receiver on the roof. Added what we call the All Makes harness, which is a harness set that allows us to put a Pro 700 onto basically any machine that has CCLS hydraulics to control it. We installed the auto guidance valve, kind of tucked it in underneath the hand pump that we changed out, so it's nice and compact and all the panels fit back on.
It looks like it was meant to be there, honestly.
It really does. I mean,
it looks good.
I couldn't have asked for a better fitment.
I almost want to leave that cover off just because of the hydraulic looks so nice.
Yeah.
Good, okay.
Then we added the signal line. We had to adjust the pressures on the pump, the low pressure standby, so that we get the response out of the pump that we wanted. We adjusted the high pressure standby and a couple other valves on the machine so that we got the flow without any bypassing. So we're not adding any hydraulic heat to the system. Got the display installed, modified the All Makes harness some so that it'd fit nicer in the cab, mounted a nav controller and put on the auto sense sensor, which is our steering angle sensor for these machines.
Is that on the center section, or is that little box with the wire to it?
This little black box.
I was wondering.
Here.
Okay,
yeah.
I saw that. I was wondering what that was. Got it. Okay.
So that has some black magic in it. It's basically a gyroscope and an accelerometer, and it looks at the the feedback from that to determine the angle of the articulation. It also tells us what our slew rate is, like how fast is it turning left or right, so it can project where it's going to be or when it's going to be online and hit the targets that we're after. After we got all done with that, we came out and warmed the hydraulics up as much as we could on kind of a chilly day.
It was like 10 degrees yesterday, and I think we could barely get it above 60 degrees.
So we have truly almost hands-free farming here. About the only thing these guys are really going to have to do is raise the drill out of the ground and put it back in. I know that's a lot to ask, but
how am I going to Instagram with that hand now? Because I have to put the phone down to pull the lever.
Well, I think maybe you should just get a mount for your phone.
Oh,
there you go.
That's not a bad idea.
Then you can live stream everything that's happening.
So you're saying this is the only big bud that we know of that has a Pro 700 with a nav3 controller that can do AccuTurn,
Yeah.
and probably with a versatile steering sector.
Yeah,
Hand pump.
literally. I would say that this is the only one in the world that has all of this technology added to it. We added a full CAN bus system. So if we walk around here to the back, this is our implement connector. We converted one cart to ISO, so the air cart will plug right into there, populate right on the Pro 700.
These guys have been a lot of fun. Dustin, who had to take off, he's not here right now, but both really good, and we're just really thankful for Torgerson's and for Case IH for making this all happen. So this is very much a possibility for what you're running, so we'll see. We're gonna find out soon how well it works, but I'm excited. Go for a drive?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. You driven this thing before?
Once.
Okay.
I knew where the key was. So
Oh, there we go.
Once you got that, you're good. So we got the display booted up. On their run screen 1, I've named it and labeled it cart, and that is the ISOBUS virtual terminal screen. So whenever you plug the cart in, it's going to automatically populate on this screen, and it'll remember exactly where you left off from the last year. It's going to automatically learn based on the setting that I've shown it, which if I go to settings here, it'll actually take us to the AccuTurn setup screen. So I've told it that I want it to trigger off of the end of the swath. The display will remember where I've turned before in the same field and automatically turn where I've turned before. So if you can imagine, if I turn here in the field, the next time that it gets there, it's going to make the turn right there, so on and so forth, across the field. Hands-free.
That's awesome.
Some of the other adjustments I've had to make is like the minimum radius for the turn, just so that we don't go to full lock.
Yeah, I don't know why. I was under the impression that AccuTurn only worked with RTK systems, but...
So I'm going to turn the AccuTurn on now.
Okay.
Oh. So it said it couldn't create the inter-row turn. It hasn't learned where I've turned on the end of this field again yet.
I was just actually wondering if it's possible, you know, especially if we get 5G, if I could put a laptop in here and maybe bust out some RPGs or something.
There we go. I mean, we could. You could get a double monitor setup up here.
Oh, yeah.
Play some video games.
But I need to get a keyboard now, your mouse and keyboard, so yeah.
I mean, you almost don't need the steering wheel, so maybe we
Yeah,
can make
what
it
is
so
that
you-
doing there?
I don't know. It's hanging out. It's contemplating being alive.
This is pretty cool.
It really is. When we first started this project, I had some concerns about how well everything was going to perform, but you know, I've put some systems in, some other odd machines, and never one like this though. I've got to say, this is probably the coolest thing I've ever done. So, yeah, the fact that all this works and it's all integrated.
Have you scratched your name in the paint somewhere?
Not that I'll tell you.
Like much love, Steven. No, okay. We'll find it eventually, digging around.
So I want to tell it to turn now, so it learns that I want to turn here before we run into any of the semis or any of the other big buds.
Okay.
So it's generating the same line.
Here she goes.
Left hand turn, hands free.
That is so cool. See that?
This is a hard enough life, I tell you what.
It's pretty tough. If only diesel was like $1 a gallon right now, this would be a way that it is.
It's coming down, I think. I just paid less than $2 for fuel the other day.
That's always fun when you do that.
So now, because it's learned where I turned on the other end of the field, or I told it to turn, it's actually going to count down and tell us how far before it makes its next turn.
It tells you.
Yeah.
Okay, that was fun. It is really cold though. It's probably 0 degrees right now, Fahrenheit. That's cold, so let's go, warm up. Well, there you have it. It's gonna be probably a week or two before we actually get a chance to use this in the field, but we got a lot of cool things to do with it. It's gonna be awesome to diagnose this cart with because there's been some gremlins in that thing. It's been driving us crazy. We haven't figured it out, but now we've got the tools to do it. So thank you, Steven.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been awesome. He's been really great help. Glad to have him in the area and know he's available because yeah, he's on top of it. So, well, cool. Well, we're gonna use this thing, make good use of it, and yeah, I can't wait.
Awesome.
Cool. All right, thanks.
Yep, see ya.
Well, guys, isn't this awesome? I never saw this coming for this tractor. This upgrade it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait. But unfortunately, I do have to wait probably 2 weeks because the weather is not looking good for seeding. It's some snow coming this weekend, as well as a lot of cold, and so that's fine because we still have things we gotta do. Always do. Like that air cart over there still needs some things to tie up on it. But anyways, thanks for watching the channel, guys. Thanks for watching this video. Like the video if you enjoyed watching it. Comment if you have any thoughts about it. And subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. Statistically, like 60% of you are not subscribed who watch my videos. So that'd be cool to make that like maybe 1%. Anyways, do it. Subscribe. Okay, catch you later.